Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome back to Ask Amy. It feels like it's been forever because it has, because we had a couple Monday holidays. So I haven't been here with a question and answer in a few weeks, and it's a long break, but I'm happy to be back. I hope if you're back into the swing of life today, you're doing okay. It's a little tough for me waking up, not because I wasn't excited to get back at this, but because I don't know, apparently I fall into this like nighttime schedule really easily. Even though I've been a morning person, I get up at 5:30 every morning, and I have for a long time. For a long time before that, I worked midnights and I used to bartend, and I was just up late, and I don't know, my body just falls back into that. So it's been a bit of a adjustment sleep-wise, but anyway, I hope that you're adjusting, and whenever you kind of came back to life after the holidays, everything's going well. So I have a question today from Kirsty, and it's about relationships and arguing in a sense. And I actually chose this question for today because looking through my questions that have been submitted, and thank you, by the way, for sending those when you do. I love seeing the questions there. I love having a variety to kind of get to choose from. You guys have been amazing at sending questions. And again, I'd love to see questions on anything. So whether it's around habits, anxiety, and change, or just about this understanding in general, or about relationships and arguments and all kinds of things, send them my way, and I will get to them. So anyway, and looking through the questions and choosing one that popped out at me for today, there were three actually that were very similar to this one on this kind of topic of like arguing and how that looks bouncing back from arguments, and how it looks navigating things in relationships from within this new paradigm that I talk about. So I chose Kirsty's to kind of read and address because it was the most kind of general, and it I think it will help the other people who sent in questions about this. But again, I'll probably get to all of them at some point. So Kirsty says, "Hi Amy, my question is regarding arguments. Once you're aware of this understanding, does it mean you'll never have an argument with anyone again? Or if not, how does it affect the way you deal with arguments? I had an argument with my boyfriend yesterday, and it still took a really long time for my thoughts and emotions to settle down again into feeling peace and forgiveness. I'd like to be able to handle arguments in a better way, but I still feel like I'm struggling with this. Do you have any advice or suggestions?" And then she has a nice PS that I'll read because I want to. It says, "I think you're amazing. I'm so grateful for your videos. I just missed the last Little School of Big Change enrollment deadline, but I'm definitely planning on enrolling for the next one in spring." Awesome, Kirsty. I can't wait to have you. And by the way, that's going to be opening March 11th. So mark your calendars. That sounds like a long time away, but it's really, really not. It's right around the corner. So March 11th. And the best way to go about that is to get on the wait list. And I'll have a link here for the wait list for the school, just because then you just get notified as things start moving. So Kirsty, your question. First of all, once you're aware of this understanding, does it mean you'll never have an argument with anyone again? Not in my experience, and not in any experience of anyone I've ever seen, really, to be honest. So, you know, we're still human. We're all, no matter what you know, what you understand, you're still going to be a human being, and that means that thoughts moving through you all the time, and it's being brought to life in this amazing, vivid, emotional way that we are just in, like we're kind of immersed in that. It's like a really great movie when you forget you're watching a movie, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm in it. And then you kind of wake up like, oh, that's right, this is a movie, or oh, that's right, this is just a book, you know? But it's that little immersive sort of experience. That's standard, that's life, right? That's just human life. So as long as that's happening, and as long as we are full of thinking and personal thinking that we get a little wedded to, that's not a problem. It's just how humans work. Opinions and insecurities and things that can push our buttons and bring out insecure thoughts and feelings, as long as that's the case, and again, as far as I've ever seen, that's the case for all of us forever, I think it's probably safe to say that you're going to have a full range of emotional experience. And some of that might include having what we might call an argument. So let's just say, again, I don't know, maybe someone else has had a different experience where they've never argued again. I haven't, and I haven't seen that really. But let's just say, for sake of argument, for this conversation, that yeah, you might still have that a bit. So then you say, if not, how does this understanding affect the way you deal with arguments? And then you say, it took a really long time to bounce back, for your thoughts and feelings to kind of settle down, and for you to bounce back to a feeling of peace and forgiveness. Well, first of all, the most amazing thing in what you wrote here is that you even know that by nature, you are going to bounce back to peace. That alone, that's very easy. Once we've seen that, that is so easy to take for granted. It is so easy to just be like, oh, of course, obviously, you get all caught up and then stuff settles down and you find yourself over it. Of course, we all know that, right? And we do all know that on some level, but we don't live as if we know that. So just to acknowledge that you see, okay, we got in this argument, me and my boyfriend got in this argument, I had all this stuff moving around within me, thoughts and feelings and all this psychology, just having a big party in there. And it stuck around for a while, right? But then eventually you started to feel it move on, and you felt yourself bouncing back to peace and something that maybe felt like forgiveness to you. The fact that totally on its own, that experience moves on, and what's there beneath it, what we bounce back to every single time without fail, is something that feels like peace and something that feels like home and maybe more compassion and forgiveness. That is gigantic, and that alone is huge for all of us, just knowing that that's what's there absolutely by nature beneath everything we're feeling. So how do you deal with arguments, and how do you deal with the emotions and all that comes from that afterward? I don't know how you deal with it, but what you know, and really looking in that direction and letting that get even bigger for you, like letting that be something that you can sit in and marvel in, and really see as an absolute truth, an absolute fact of just how humans are designed and how we work. That alone will do so much. So let me say it in another way, a more specific way. I'll tell you from my experience, like I think, I don't know, my husband and I don't really argue much. I always credit him for that because I always think he's not a confrontational kind of guy, but and neither am I. But like, I don't know, he gets on my nerves. I get annoyed, right? Like we have our little spats that happens, of course. I don't know that happens any less than before I had this understanding. But what does change is that when I'm in all that, so what you described, Kirsty, after your flight, when I'm in all that with him or anyone, I'm a lot more sensitive to it than I used to be. That used to be kind of normal, to just have crappy feelings, to be a little frustrated, to be a little disgruntled, to feel offended by something someone said. It used to just be pretty typical. What I've seen is that the more we see about who and what we really are, and we kind of touch that more and more, anything that goes against that, so all of that totally normal argument, feeling offended, feeling angry, frustrated, it's totally normal, totally human. It might happen, probably will happen your whole life. At the same time, although it doesn't stop and it doesn't change or go away, you've experienced it differently because that's not you. You've touched you. You felt what it feels like to be at home more and more. And so the contrast, the contrast, and the contrast isn't so normal and typical for you anymore. It doesn't feel good. Like it feels worse than it did before. Before, again, like I just lived my life in low-level anxiety for years. Just felt like Tuesday wasn't anything. Starting to feel better, then you get some low-level anxiety and you're like, what is this? This is not right. So it's kind of like that. It's like you argue, you feel stuff, you're human, all that stuff still happens, but you're more sensitive to it in a good way, because it just, you know what home is, you know what your nature is, and it's so opposed to that it kind of wakes you up, which is the point. which is why, I don't know why we humans have a range of experience. I think we're just here to experience all we can of everything. It's all one thing. So I think it's awesome that we have a range of experience. But though these emotions, especially when we kind of sit in them, the pain and the suffering and the heaviness that we feel from the heavier emotions, they're there to show us, oh yeah, you're not here in life right now. You're not in what's actually happening right in front of you. You're not in this moment. You're not in reality. You're in a thought created reality. And that's why we have to feel so bad when we're in that. So it kind of wakes us up to that. So anyway, we tend to get more sensitive to that. So how this has looked for me and a lot of people I've seen is that you still, whatever, get annoyed, maybe argue, however that goes. But you're sensitive, more sensitive to not feeling well. And you also know that what you're feeling is what you're feeling. Meaning, when I get upset with my husband, like I can get upset with him and I just know I need to go take a break. I need to not look at him for a while. I need to let all this do what it needs to do. I don't think, oh my gosh, I can't live with this. And I used to. He's wrong. He needs to change. Like, this isn't going to work. Again, I don't know, maybe those thoughts come up a little bit, but not the way they used to. Like, that's one thing that's changed. So we start to see more and more about how what we feel is basically just what we feel. It's coming from our own psychology. And that leaves the other person or the situation or whatever that is out of it a little bit. Now, I say that with a big caveat because it's not really. I mean, when I'm feeling annoyed with him, I'll tell you, no, I'm annoyed with him. He just did this thing. And this is the hardest thing in the world to explain, but just see if you can kind of get a feel for it. I also know what I'm talking about. Like, I also know that I'm wrong. So I still feel it. It still looks that way. But in the back of my mind, I'm not as attached to it. I'm not taking it quite so seriously because I've been through this a few 100,000 times, like we all have, right? But I'm like, as you have this understanding a little bit more, you have the eyes to kind of see, oh yeah, this is how it goes. I get caught up. I feel all kinds of stuff. It looks like it's them. It looks like they need to change. But I know how this goes. At some point in the relatively near future, my psychology is going to shift. I'm going to see everything differently, and we're going to move on. Now, again, I'm not saying if somebody's out there listening thinking, oh, you're saying just let all, it's all your fault, or let your psychology shift and don't hold them accountable. It's none of that. Nothing to do with any of that. When I say you move on and you break up if that's what you need to do. You move on and you have a conversation if that's what you need to do. I'm just saying you do that from a cleaner place because you see where your own feelings are coming from. So I hope this kind of makes a little bit of sense. One thing, Kirsty, in your question, you say it took a really long time to move on to peace and forgiveness, and she capitalizes really. just kind of look out for that, right? So we get these ideas of, oh, I should have moved on faster. I should have moved on quicker. If I know this, if I have this understanding, I shouldn't argue. If I have this understanding, I should bounce back that much quicker. No, we just make stuff up. We make up lots. We start to get a little feel for the freedom and truth in this. And then our mind comes in and makes up a million rules around it and then holds us to those standards and then says, see, you aren't really getting this. You don't really get it anyway because your experience isn't looking the way you think it should look. Well, our mind makes up how we think it should look. So don't worry about how long it takes. It could take you a week. It could take you a month. Who cares? The more you know that, okay, I know that I'm in the process of bouncing back because we all are. There's no exception to that. Peace is our nature. Psychology is our nature. That comes up and covers the peace. And 100% of the time, without exception, the psychology shifts and we bounce back to peace. The more you can kind of stay in that and just know that's the way we work and it doesn't look so personal and we're not watching our clock and trying to figure out how long it's taken and all that, the smoother and easier it'll go. And that will help you see this and actually bounce back that much faster. So yeah, so I hope this is helpful. I hope it's helpful to the rest of you who sent similar questions, and I will get to your questions also. So yeah, send your questions to askamy@thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. I love reading them. I know I have some in there that I haven't gotten to yet, but I will get to all of them someday. So please send your questions about anything right there. Again, sign up for the wait list for the Little School of Big Change. It opens March 11th. That's the next registration period. And I wanted to mention that I'm doing a free webinar on next Wednesday, January 16th at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And you can register for that at dramyjohnson.com/resolution. And it's in honor of International Ditch Your New Year's Resolutions Day, which is January 17th, which is also my birthday. And that's the day. It's the day everyone, on average, kind of ditches their New Year's resolutions. And there's good reason for that. It's not because we only have 17 days of discipline. It actually is because we only have 17 days of discipline. But discipline is not what's needed to have deep and lasting change this year or any year. So in this webinar, I'll be talking about why and how and what the implications are of setting all these resolutions and goals, or just trying to change. It's not even about New Year's, really. Setting out to try to change something, getting a couple weeks into it, and then just throwing the whole thing away in frustration and hopelessness, which I went through umpteen times in my life, and I know many of you have too. It's not your fault. It's not because you need to work harder in those 17 days. It's because we've been pointed in the wrong direction, and we're just doing the wrong things. We're trying to use our willpower and our muscle and our discipline to make change happen, and that's not how deep and lasting change happens. So in this free webinar next Wednesday, the 16th, I'll be talking a lot more about that. So check the link here and you can sign up for that. So it's great to be back with you guys. Happy New Year, and I will see you next week.